craziest one was when you lined up all of the dumbbells from like 25 all the way to like 65, and everybody had to You remember that one?
Get through the ladder, right?
Yeah, that one was crazy. That one was crazy. Welcome everybody to the Chosen Ones TV Coaches Edition. I'm Wes Trammell, founder of the Chosen Ones GR. So I have a very, very special episode with Coach Bauer. Me and Coach Bauer go way back about 10 years. I played for Coach Bauer at Grand Valley. So, Coach, I got you to thank for these big tree trunk legs because all the squats that you do.
There you go, man. You need to get back on that. I've got the COVID-19 going around my gut right now. So.
Oh, man. Yeah, I think we all have that problem right now. But Coach Bauer is the head coach for Grand Rapids Community College, and he also teaches at West Ottawa as well. So this episode, I think, is going to be valuable to shine light on the JUCO programs all around. So hopefully this is very informative for everybody watching. But first of all, how are you? How have you been really through all the COVID and stuff like that?
Well, thanks for having me, Wes, and appreciate you giving me the opportunity to talk a little bit. And you obviously have a special place for me, having been a former player. But the COVID thing is just, we're living in a different world right now. It's, there's no playbook for this. It's brand new. Everybody's trying to figure it out, including us. So I was stuck at home for 6 months with a 3 and a 2-year-old. So it was a little bit challenging there. So I'm glad to be back at work. But just trying to figure out life. I think there's some new normals, obviously, until we hopefully find a vaccine soon, and just trying to figure it out. And all of us in every aspect of our lives for basketball at CC, we still haven't been able to get in the gym or do anything. So guys are getting restless and stuff, which I understand. But, everybody at every place, they have their own challenges right now. And we just can control what we can control and just kind of, deal with it day by day. And hopefully we can get back in there soon and start working.
For sure. Yeah. Hopefully things will turn around really soon. I'm really excited to talk to you about, the JUCO option for a lot of kids. Really, my first question for you is, why is it good for a recruit to consider going the JUCO route?
Well, I'm still trying to figure out the level, I guess, on my end. Last year was my first year after spending about 20 years at NCAA Division I and II schools. So I have always recruited that level, but never really coached in that. So I'm trying not to do anything different. I think kids who not maybe fall to our level, but come to our level, there's no one background that those guys are from, and ultimately they want to get to a 4-year school. So I think I owe it to them to kind of coach them academically, basketball-wise, life-wise, the same way that I've coached my whole career at other places. So, the junior college reputation, I think there's a bad rap that junior college players get, that they're all troubled or, awful students or whatnot, and it's not the case. Certainly doesn't have to be. Obviously, there are those stories and stuff that play in the junior college world, but not everybody is that way. I think, my pitch for the junior college thing is this. Some guys are just under-recruited or unrecruited, or just, maybe they need another time or a season to develop and stuff. And, the nice thing about junior college is it's cheap. It's really, really inexpensive. For an in-Kent County guy, tuition for the entire year is under $3,000. Which, when I was at Grand Valley, I think we were the second least expensive public school in Michigan at that time. Total cost of attendance was around $25,000, give or take. So, first of all, it's cheap. So, kids who don't get recruited for whatever reason, sometimes they'll choose to go to a prep school, which that's great, but that's also oftentimes comes with a big price tag. Or maybe they'll try to go to a Division I school and, walk on and maybe redshirt. And obviously there's no scholarship situation in those things. So again, there's a pretty hefty price tag with that. And, quite frankly, for the walk-on option, those guys typically aren't getting real looks by the coaches. They're just kind of fillers quite often. So they don't really get a chance to develop and do their thing. So I think the junior college is a great option for those type of guys who maybe need a little more development or just want a year to show what they have, or 2 years if the situation fits to where they can improve, get better, get some experience. Typically, I don't want to say the level of competition isn't as high as those other levels, but usually it's not. So sometimes that's a great boost to enhance just their confidence.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's players who aren't very good, but if they're confident while they're playing, they perform well. And, at this level, that can be a boost to some student athletes as well. So I think there's lots of good things. Obviously, the academic part, some kids who didn't do that well in high school for whatever reason academically, it kind of gives them a jump start to their academic career as well.
For sure. Yeah, I definitely agree that there's a JUCO, stigma. But I was talking to Jamani Jones from East Kentwood a couple weeks ago. He's deciding to go the JUCO route, and for those very reasons to, develop some more and hopefully, get a scholarship to a D1 school. And the first JUCO person that come to my mind, obviously remember JT, James Thomas.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we grabbed him from GRCC.
That's right.
I think we scrimmaged him one year.
We did, and he could shoot a little bit. So
yeah. He's a scoring machine for sure. Yep. So for you, I know this question, but I want you to answer it for our viewers. So how do players stand out to you in the GRCC program, either on the court and off the court?
When you say stand out, I guess what do you mean?
As far as, what things are you looking for in a player? What things are they doing on the court and stuff like that?
Oh, recruits. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think, again, the recruiting philosophy that I'm bringing to GRCC is hopefully the same as the other places. I think, first of all, we just look for character guys. There's a lot of good players out there who just, they're kind of out on the fringes and stuff. And, we want guys who are going to represent us well. And I think, we want good people first. So that's the first thing. So that's not always something that you can find on the court or see on the court. You got to do a little digging to get that information, but that's something we're always looking for. And then on the floor, we want competitors. Those guys, if you compete in high school, you're probably going to compete at the next level. You don't always want the guys who are just talented because, they kind of rest on their laurels. And, you want guys who are going to get out there and fight for it. So that's huge. So good people, good competitors, good team guys. I think toughness is huge. That's always something you want to see. And then, X's and O's and talent is kind of down the step ladder a little bit. Obviously, it's nice to have guys who can shoot it because that's something – at the college level, 2-year or 4-year, that's a little tougher to get a guy to do well if he hasn't been able to do that at the high school level or wherever he's coming from. So, offensive skill, what can they do? What can they bring to the table? Are they a great shooter? Are they a great ball handler? Are they a great penetrator? Those are things you can teach kids how to play defense. That's just a mindset and effort more than anything else. But, and then, finally, there's an element of, you want good athleticism when you can get it with everything else being equal. So
for sure.
I think we look for a lot and just, good kids, good people, good competitors, and, hopefully they can put the ball in the hole a little bit too.
Yeah, definitely. The thing that stands out in my mind, you said competitors. And I think I would add mental toughness for you too. All I could think about is those coaches' challenges at the end of our weight room. The craziest one was when you lined up all of the dumbbells from like 25 all the way to like 65, and everybody had to You remember that one?
Get through the ladder, right?
Yeah, that one was crazy. So at the JUCO level, when the recruiting process starts, I'm assuming it might be a little different. Are you like initiating relationships, or players initiating relationships, or is it kind of 50-50?
It's a little bit of both. I wouldn't say it's 50-50. And again, I think at every level, it's a little bit different, but it's also a little bit the same. Typically, not always, the kids who contact you aren't always on your radar as your top targets. Usually, you've done a little bit of digging and homework and stuff. And I think for the top tier guys at every level, the coaching staff and the institution, they're kind of doing the first step, reaching out and stuff. Yeah. But, you do get players under the radar, too, who email you. So probably, if I had to put a percentage, it's probably 70-30 of the kids that we want in our program in terms of talent being good enough. And this is probably the same across the board everywhere. It's, mostly us reaching out. But, you do get occasional emails as well. So, and to start that process, there's a bunch of different routes that you could take, AAU events, just calling coaches and seeing who they have available or who might be a good fit. There's scouting services out there. So all those things kind of factor in. There's a bunch of recruiting websites that kids, I believe, pay money for, and they kind of work as a third party vendor for the kid, I guess. Right. So there's really not a right, correct approach. I think every situation is a little different.
Yeah, for sure. So for that 30% for the kids that do reach out, is it usually like an email, like introductory email, kind of introducing themselves?
Yeah, I think so. Some coaches will reach out on the kids' behalf, which is great. I think that's good. Yeah. But, emails, so we get quite a few emails, and some are from the actual student athlete, and then others might be from, like I said, the coach or one of these, scouting, recruiting websites. So I don't know, I don't get quite the number I did when I was at Central Michigan or Grand Valley, but I probably, in my inbox every day, probably get about 10 of those emails from prospective student athletes looking to maybe come to our place.
Okay, cool. So say that email comes and that interest is mutual. What does that relationship look like going forward? How often are you reaching out? And what are you guys typically talking about?
So when I first have contact with a student athlete who I've heard about or seen and like, the first thing that I'm going to just tell them, I usually try to get to know them a little bit better. Hey, Coach Bauer at Grand Rapids, we saw you play, or we heard about you, heard good things about you. Just tell me about yourself. The basketball part, that's something that you're going to see, and you can see that. But I don't really coach. And I think, if you've interviewed, and you have already, but most coaches, they don't just coach for the basketball part. It's for the relationship part and trying to be a positive influence. So I want to get as quickly as possible to what's home like for them. What is your family about? So I pretty much just open up and, I might tell them a little bit about our place, but very quickly I try to spin it to them and get their, get some information about who they are. What do they like to do aside from basketball? Their family, who do they live with, who do they stay with, what's that situation and dynamic like? So, and I try to very quickly in that first conversation, maybe right after, hey, text me whoever is going to be an influence in your recruiting or in your life, that I can kind of call and introduce myself. If that's mom, dad, grandpa, uncle, whoever it is, and give me your parents' number. Just so I can call. I probably would space that out, through the recruiting process, but I want to have involvement with those people because, from a recruiting standpoint, kids always have, it's going to be their decision usually, but somebody's got to sign off on that. Is it going to be the coach saying, yeah, that makes sense for you, go there? Is it going to be mom or dad saying, yes, we like this situation for you? Generally speaking, somebody's going to sign off and check the boxes and kind of okay that kid to, and maybe it's not, physically or something. It's just a mental checklist for the student athlete. Okay, well, I like this place. It makes sense to me, and mom likes it or coach likes it, and it's a good fit and it makes sense on all those levels. So I very quickly want to get the family involved with the prospect and just kind of get in there. So that's kind of the initial phone call. And beyond that, once we move forward, again, there's no linear path for that, but want to have my staff kind of reach out so he just doesn't get attached to me or connected with me, but our whole staff and just as many people in our program to connect with the student athlete as possible and their families, I think, is huge as we go along. And, spacing out in terms of that relationship, it might be reaching out once a week, twice a week.
Okay.
Texting is so much bigger than it used to be right now, or just catching guys on Twitter. So, if you see them do a good thing with the highlight, just, hey, great job on Tuesday night's game or whatever. So,
yeah. I think that relationship factor is very key. And I definitely got that sense from you when I played for you. Your office, I felt like was an office that I could go to, whenever I needed to talk about something, whatever it was, because I feel like you were always just like really understanding and stuff like that. And I think that's really important for players, and the players, the high school players that I talked to today that have recently, selected their college, that was their number one aspect, is it was a family atmosphere. I felt like I trust the coaches. So I think that's definitely really, really important for sure.
No question.
Yeah. So you mentioned, talking with the players, maybe texting them. Is it always about basketball, or is it like about anything?
Usually, sometimes, and maybe half the time, but just the other, hey, how's it going, man? What's going on this week? Anything exciting going on? You got a hot date this weekend? What's shaking? So, again, I think the basketball aspect, just you're going to have those conversations. They're going to bring it up more than you bring it up, I think. You might ask them, hey, what's your strength here? What is something you think you need to work on moving forward? But again, I think the kid, he doesn't want to know that you think he's a good player. I think every player thinks he's a good player, so that's already kind of in their toolbox. Sure. They want to know how much you care about them as a person, and that you're going to look after them and take care of them if they do choose your program. Yeah.
That's key. Definitely key right there. Just building that relationship. And the kids that I do talk to, I always encourage them, not to be afraid to, contact you and just talk. Drew Valentine was just like the other day, was just saying, if a kid's texting me about a game, hey, did you see that game? Or did you see so-and-so, go off for 40 points? Like, he likes stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I just want, recruits to know that it's not to be intimidated and not to overthink things, if that makes sense.
No question. I don't know. I haven't walked in the shoes of any player that I've ever recruited. So it's a different time now. I'm getting up there, getting old. I got some gray going on here. But absolutely, kids, I think today's generation, they're not as comfortable communicating as, when I was growing up, or even when you played. You guys, there's so much more that they have now, and everything is becoming more one-on-one with phones and stuff. And, even teammates just talking to each other and getting both on the court and off the court, just to talk and advocate for themselves in class or whatever, just to ask a question. So I think all that stuff is fair. And, I think when they do that, it opens up, like your Denzel example there. It kind of humanizes the person. It's just not a player. It's, again, back to who they are and what they're about and stuff. And on the flip side, it kind of makes you vulnerable. If a kid reaches out and just continues to do that on their own accord, and kind of makes you open up to them, which I think is a valuable thing as well.
Definitely. That's real good stuff. So I know you got to go soon. Last question. So when you're offering a spot on the team, so what does that look like at the JUCO level? I know you mentioned the the cost. Is there like scholarship options? What does that look like? So,
good question there. This is probably misunderstood, or there's not a lot of information about junior college out there. Yeah. So just like NCAA has Division I, II, and III, and every level can do different things at the NCAA level. Division I, obviously, they're allowed 13 scholarships, and it's either all or nothing. So you're either getting everything paid for, or you're getting absolutely nothing. Division II, they can offer up to 10 scholarships. And they can kind of cut up that money. They can offer everything. They can offer a single dollar, anything in between. So at the Division II level, NCAA, there's the 10 scholarships. But then there's also kind of a pot of money. So they can, they get the equivalent cash-wise of that 10. So they have to kind of work that, kind of what they value, how much they value a player in terms of that. And I think, other things come into play at that level too. Does a kid get Pell Grant? Does he have academic money coming into the fold? So that's a little different. NCAA Division III, obviously, it's no athletic money at all. It's got to be all academic. So junior college is a little bit the same way. There's a Division I, Division II, and Division III. So Division II in the junior college world, it's exactly like the NCAA world. There's no athletic money that they can give.
Right.
Division I at the junior college level, they can pretty much pay for everything. Okay. And so that would include tuition, books, fees, and housing. Division II, which we are in every junior college in Michigan is, there might be a couple of Division IIIs in there, but most of the ones in our league, everyone in our league is Division III. So, or Division II, excuse me. So we can offer, we're allowed to pay for tuition, books, and fees. We can't touch housing. We can't touch food. Okay. So that's what we're allowed to do. Yeah. But every school then, they have a pot of money as well that they can't exceed. So whatever that looks like, maybe a school is allowed to pay for tuition, books, fees, but they don't have the athletic funding to do that. So maybe only a few of those student athletes are getting all of those things paid for athletically. Okay. At our level, be it Division I, II, or III, the financial aid packages are so much bigger than they are at the NCAA levels, because you need to have those, because a lot of junior colleges don't have a lot of athletic aid. Mm-hmm. So, if a kid gets Pell Grant or any need-based money in Michigan, we have something called TIPS too, which is the tuition incentive program. So for those student athletes who are going to listen to this and that you're going to talk to, it's huge for them to know, often what they're going to get financially. So when I ask a kid, hey, is your FAFSA done? And they say no, I'm like, well, dude, you need to get that done. And that process might take a month. Right. That might cost you a scholarship, because if we only have a certain amount of cash left, and one kid gets the full Pell Grant, which is $6,300, by the way, which is huge, and the other kid doesn't, well, I'm probably going with the Pell kid because he's going to be less expensive for us, and he's going to have all his bills taken care of anyway. Yeah. And then obviously the academic piece too. So there are academic scholarships. So it's very important for kids to do well academically, because and when we were at Grand Valley, when I was there, guys like you, we talk to all the time, as much as other stuff that you can bring. If you're a high academic kid, so you might get $2,000 academic scholarship, and you're a Pell kid or whatever, as much other money, non-athletic money that you can bring to your table, that's all going to be good for you. And it's going to open more doors, because you're a least or a lesser expensive option than maybe somebody that we're looking at as well, and might pull the trigger in your favor because of that. So those are other aspects that kids, need to get done that they don't often get done. I think, especially in today's world, when we do recruit, the guys who get stuff done, that's huge, because if they're getting it done during the recruiting process, if they're communicating well, which is an issue in the recruiting process, if they answer your calls, if they answer your texts, like you're talking about, if they answer your emails, if they're on these little detailed stuff like their FAFSA and their academics, then they're probably going to be more successful in college, and we don't want to bring in guys, and nobody wants to bring in guys who are coming in and going to, fail out after one semester. Right. So just having a proven track record that you can accomplish things, that's as important in basketball as, that's a skill, man. That's just like making a three or getting a rebound. Those things are huge. If you can do those things and you're reliable and low maintenance off the court, then that's going to really favor up in your recruiting as well. That's awesome. That's good.
Moral of the story: stay on top of your stuff. That increases your chances of landing a spot, landing a scholarship. So that's the goal. Appreciate you, Coach B. It was really good catching up with you, as always. Good luck to you with the new one coming, and good luck to you.
Too.
Thank you. Good luck to you with the season coming up too. So I know a lot of the names on your roster, so you got a nice squad. So
cool. Thank you, man. Hope so. Got a lot of work to do, but love you, brother, and let me do what I can do for you. Okay.
All right, love you too, Coach. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Until next time, peace.